Deaconess Tammie coming to you with the good news. The title of my good news today is called The Best Gift. And I'm coming from 1 Samuel, and I will begin my reading at chapter 9. This is a very familiar story. This is the story of Hannah and Peninnah. And so, chapter 9. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drank. Now Eli, the priest, sat upon the seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaiden, and remember me, and not forget thy handmaiden, but will give unto thy handmaiden a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli mocked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spoke in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drank neither wine nor strong drink, and have poured out of my soul before the Lord. Count not thy handmaiden for a daughter of Baal, for out of an abundance of my complaints and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that has asked of him. And she said, Let thy handmaiden find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way, and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. Father in heaven, we give thee thanks for your grace and your mercy. Father God, I ask that this word fall on good ground, Father God. And I ask that your people receive what I have prepared for them. Father God, I ask that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. We all know the story of Hannah and Peninnah. We know that Hannah was the second wife of Elkanah, and that his first wife, Peninnah, had bared him children. And because Hannah had no children, she was in much pain because she so wanted to give her husband a son. And we know that Peninnah taunted her. And so this caused Hannah much pain. We also know that her husband loved her. And he said to Hannah, Why weep, and why are you not eating? Why are you grieving so? Am I not more than 10 sons? Her husband tried to comfort her when he said those things to her. And so it's clear that despite what Hannah suffered, her husband was a constant present blessing. Hannah vowed to dedicate her son to the service of God, if only he would give her a child. And so finally, when she made that vow, and she promised God that if he gave her a son, she would give him back to him for service. And so, like so many women before her who were barren, they made the same or a similar request, that if God would open their wombs, they would dedicate their future children to the service of the Lord. Think about your grandmother, your aunts, your uncle, your mother, your aunts, who constantly prayed for your deliverance. What did they say to the Lord? If you save my child or family member, what did they sacrifice on our behalf? Like Hannah, these women believed in the power of prayer. In honor of Women's History Month, let us honor those who have labored before us as women of this great gospel. The women pastors, the ministers, the preachers, the teachers, the first ladies, our mothers, our grandmothers, who have made history, who have cried out on behalf of us, dedicating us, covering us in prayer, whose wombs were barren and God opened them, just like Hannah. I thank God for the life of my grandmother, Mama Eli. She showed me what a godly woman looked like at a very young age. She taught us to be daughters, mothers, wives, to be Proverb 31 women, to seek the Lord for all things, to keep him as the head of our house, of our lives. She gave us wise counsel. She taught us how to keep our houses. She instilled things in us that helped to make us who we are today. We find it easy to feel with Hannah, so despondent and depressed by what must have felt like total failure. All of us have had times when we felt down, when life seemed so dark and empty, as if everything has gone wrong. With Hannah, it had gotten even further. The pain was so great that her heart became bitter, and her bitterness, food lost all attraction, and she was unable to eat. And in Hannah's case, the problem was resolved when she made a vow to God, and the Lord answered her prayer. For some of us, the answer doesn't come so quickly, or perhaps at all. So it's important to know when to seek comfort during these times. We know that God is a prayer answering God. In the voice of our evangelist Strong, we just have to wait on him. God heard and answered Hannah's prayer and blessed her with a son. And she kept her promise to the Lord. Have you kept your promise to the Lord? When Samuel was of age, she delivered him to the tabernacle. Having a son was her heart's desire, yet she was willing to give up that treasure should it be given to her. What have you given unto the Lord? Samuel, Hannah's son, grew to become one of the greatest of the Old Testament prophets, and surely the greatest of judges. This is where you and I are to find comfort while we wait for God to relieve our pain. No, not in a loving husband or a wife, but in whatever present blessing God may give us. We need to focus on good things, for in them we find evident that God hasn't forsaken us after all. In them we find evident that we are loved even when we may feel despaired. Focusing on God's good gifts won't take the pain away immediately, but it can make the pain bearable. And in time, whether we receive what we longed for or not, awareness of God's love will sustain us and lead us to experience joy. God gives good gifts to all, and all we need is the wisdom to recognize them and the grace to appreciate them. This is the good news.